Hi, my name is DelmarshaeWalker. Welcome back to my channel, and I hope everyone is doing great today. What I want to talk about is how very important it is for when it comes to raising kids that they grew up in a family with a two-parent household. I know sometimes because of situations and circumstances that doesn't always happen, but it's still very important that the father has a very important role in their lives when it comes to raising their daughters and especially their sons. Boys need their father. Boys need a strong male role model to look up to learn from, to grow from, and understand what it is to be a man from a strong male father figure or a strong male figure that's in his life. Once again, not saying that women cannot do a good job at raising a good son, an educated son, or a respectable son, and send him out into the world to be productive. But it's a lot of things that women cannot teach a man or teach a male, a young boy growing up. And also, it's a lot of women out there that feel that they don't need a man, or they pit themselves against men. It's like it's black women against black men, and they're constantly going at it, and they're always pointing, saying, this is what's wrong with you, this is what's wrong with you. Change always starts with self. Regardless of what someone did to you, regardless of what's going on out there in the world, change first starts with you. Whatever issue I have, it's going to start with me. I have to change my attitude. I have to grow past any hurts I have from the past. I have to grow and understand that, everybody is not the same. People are different. Once I change who I am, then I can look at the world with a different perspective than I was doing before. If you're still hurt and you're looking at the world through a hurt perspective, everyone is out there to hurt you. Everyone is out there to get you, which is not true. So I feel like when it comes to black women, sometimes we need to fall back. I know if you're a head of the household, if you've been in a position where you have to be more assertive, if you have to be more aggressive, that's understandable. But if there's a strong man in your life, or you're dealing in a situation where you're a woman and there's a man, you have to understand that men are designed to be a leader. Real men, let me correct myself. All men aren't leaders. All men do not deserve to be in a leadership position. But when it comes to a strong man who really understands what's going on, who really understands what it is to be a leader, as a woman, we don't need to compete with that. We just fall behind and let him lead, let him do the job. It do not take away anything from you as a woman. It does not make you less than. You're equal to, but only one person can lead at a time. So allow men to have that position of leadership. Like I was saying before, God designed men to be the head of the household. God designed men to be in that leadership role. So allow them to take that position and do what they need to do. These young boys out there, they need guidance. I have said it before, they need to be, if I had it my way, if I had the ability to open up a school, it would be a private all-boys school with all male teachers, because that is what they need. I have nothing against sports. I think sports are great, and I have nothing against music. We all need sports and music. But I think a lot of times when it comes to our black males, they feel like that's the only opportunity they have to move forward in the world, is either through sports or music. But we need black doctors. We need black lawyers. Yes, like I said, I'm not forgetting the girls. Girls can do whatever they want to as far as being doctors, lawyers, any type of profession, so I'm not taking that away from them. But instead of these young black men feeling like the only option they have is to either run the street, become a rapper, or a football player. And like I said, it's nothing wrong with those options if they can be successful in them. But they also got to look at, not every black male want to be a athlete. Not every black young boy want to be in the music, Be something like an architect. We will always need architects. Be an engineer. be a lawyer, be a doctor. There's other options. So I think we should take the notion away that black young boys cannot learn. They can learn. They are very smart. If you think about this, if you're raising a son, when they're small, they're just constantly going. They're running around. They're hyper. You know, if you watch them play compared to girls, girls usually sit together in a group. Boys are out there exploring. They're digging in dirt. They're climbing up. You know, they're doing dangerous things at such a young age because that's just how their mind is wired. They're explorers. They want to touch everything. They want to feel everything. They want to know this. They want to know that. And then all of a sudden they get old enough to go to school, and then you want to sit them in a chair and just say, sit here, don't move. You know, it's like, just sit here, read this book, or do this, and don't move. That's not how they learn. So they need to be in an environment that caters to the way they learn, and then you would see them be more interested in school. You would see them learning more, excelling in whatever they decide to excel in. But we have to be there for them to give that encouragement. It has to be both male and female. I understand that sometimes, like I said, for whatever happened, it's a single parent household, but they do need some type of strong male role model in their lives, who's going to understand what it is to be a male, who's going to understand what it is to be a black male in America, who understand the things that they're going through, the things that they're not talking about, so they can help them move forward and be successful in life. I also want to share these clips with you.
And everywhere I've been over the last 55 years, I've made things happen that are supposed to happen, that men are supposed to be happening. What is going on is certain types of black feminists have taken advantage of the situation that something very old has been perpetrated by certain quarters in government, industry, and finance, which is the secret to keeping the black race down is to keep the black man down and promote the black woman over the black man. Now, if black men and women are treated equally by the system, then that doesn't happen. But I did a lot of research 55 years ago, 52 years ago, 50 years ago with a DC think tank, and I have followed it up since. And one of the things that was studied was the things behind the philosophy, behind the mechanism and devices behind slavery. And universally, slave masters were told that the way to properly enslave the Negro was to get the Negro female to become one of your allies in the process. And she could better enslave her children than you could grown Negroes. So it went from there. Now, black men, Negro men at the time, colored or Negro, whatever in the hell was being used to refer to black men or men of African descent who were obvious in that descent at the time, was because we didn't play warrior and stand up and fight like the Native American brothers that some of us have, or the Native American side of some of our families. As my grandmother, a Choctaw, used to be prone to say, one of my grandmothers, you colored folk, you get angry and carry on. My people, when we got mad, we nailed some scalps to the lodgepole, aborting black male fetuses in favor of female fetuses, and nobody else in the world has been doing that. That's really interesting. Mm-hmm. You see, that goes to how are we thinking? And see, as the slave masters were instructed, you are supposed to get the slave woman who will be the slave mother, not to tell her sons, son, come back with your shield on it, do or die. They're supposed to say, girl up, not man up. Now, another thing, you have to deal with how sick this stuff was and how people don't recognize it. For example, One of the things that struck me at the time, more than 50 years ago, when I was researching it, was this thing over and over again that slave masters were told: you need to buy yourself a stud. If you can't afford one, go in with your fellow slave masters, and also make the stud your preacher. So what happens is, go to church, not to snoop on what the Negroes are doing, but to watch the Negro women. When they get happy, get to shouting, get to rolling on the floor, that means that they're coming into estrus and they are fertile. So have your preacher, who is the slave stud, see them within 3 days so you can increase your livestock for fun and profit, and also allow slave marriage. So the Negro male will be, well, they didn't use the term, but in modern language, demoralized, because this preacher he's looking up to for salvation will be screwing his wife inside his quarters on his pallet while he has to stand outside or sleep outside for the night in the cold and the rain. Again, in these slave pamphlets that are on microfilm, or were 50 some years ago in the Library of Congress, they were told to put the black man down and uplift the black woman, so the black people assumed the black woman would be the source of authority for themselves, not to black men. Because if you allow black men to have authority, then you will have uprisings and problems. If you allow the black women to be in charge and treat them as though they're in charge, that will become a habit, and they will raise their children to be that way. And the secret is, black women have this ego thing about having grandchildren. So they will cause their boys to survive instead of doing what will get them killed, trying to get free, so they will have grandchildren. And the big secret from this guy, Willie Lynch, that some think was a myth. Hell, he wasn't a myth. I spent hours reading this stuff in the Library of Congress. His secret was this: the Negro is just like the horse. You cannot domesticate a wild herd stallion, but you can domesticate a wild herd mare, even the head mare in the horse herd. So what you do is, just like raising horses, if you are aware of this, your mares will raise their foals to be domesticated horses, and you won't have to try as hard to finish up the process. If you properly deal with the Negro female, she will raise her offspring to be good slaves, just like the female horse will raise her offspring to be good domestic horses. Now, I had 14, 16 horses on my ranch out in California. My ex was into raising horses, and I learned from close observation that that is reality. If you let them, the female horse will raise, or excuse me, domesticate her foals for you, and then you can just do the finishing touches. If you acquire a foal who's been taken from the mother too early, you have a lot harder job to do to get a rideable and trainable horse than if you let the mother deal with it. See, the foals watch the mother shows them how to do it, and that's what the Negro woman did back when she showed her children how to be slaves.
As you can see, society as a whole do not want us to succeed. Society as a whole wants to break down, tear down, and cause confusion when it comes to Black relationships, Black family, and just the Black community as a whole. So the only way we're truly going to make it, if we stop focusing on what the world is doing, what's going on out there in the world, and start focusing on what we need to do to move forward in life. No one else has ever helped us. No one wants to help us. The only thing they want to do is keep us divided in any way they can. And so the only way we're going to get to moving in the right direction if we understand men, real men, real men, not BS types of men. Real men need to be in the leadership position. Real men need to step up and stand up for their kids, for their sons, for these young men out there, and really help them. And women sometimes, like I said, you're powerful if you learn how to be quiet. You're very powerful if you learn your position. It doesn't take anything away from you. It doesn't make you less than a woman. It doesn't mean that you can't do the same exact job as the man can. We know you can because you have been doing it. But at this point in time, it's let things flow the way God intended them to flow, with the man being the head of the household, with the men being in a leadership position, and then we can go ahead and follow them as long as they're leading us in the right direction. And I understand, like, some women say, well, I'm not going to follow him. Yeah, if you run into some jerk out there that has no qualms on which way to go, why follow him? He's not giving you a reason to follow him. Don't. But then at the same time, you know a real man from a jerk. It's obvious. You know a fast talker for somebody who really gonna get things done. So it's like you have to understand I know sometimes you might not have had that example, but once you run into it, believe me, you'll understand, you'll see, and you'll know. And you would want to follow that person because you see that, hey, they really got something going, and they're really going somewhere. And so these young black men need to understand what it is to be a real man, what it is to be able to handle your responsibility, to take care of the things that you need to take care of, and grow up and be a very productive man who's going to encourage you, it's like you don't want, we live in a society now where they're more focusing on holding everyone else down so they can shine. But what about pulling everyone else up with you so we all can shine? The more people show up at the party, isn't it more fun? Do you want to be the only one at the party? Do you want to be the only one celebrating? Let everyone be able to rise and celebrate together, and think about how beautiful that would be. Well, that's all I really want to say today. Everyone have a great day. Peace.